This
Okay.
conference will now be recorded.
Shall I start the class?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
In
sir.
continuation with the last class, colorectal carcinoma. Let us continue. Okay. Just a minute. Hello. Yeah. Last class we discussed about the various resections. Last class we discussed about various resections. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Last class I told you various resections, abdominoperineal, starting from abdominoperineal resection, anterior resection, sigmoidectomy, then left hemicolectomy, extended left hemicolectomy, then right hemicolectomy. I told you all that. Then okay. Then few of the investigations. Colonoscopy is must. Okay. Because you can visualize the lesion and you can take a sample, tissue sample, and diagnosis is always by histology. Diagnosis is all by histology. Mostly what will it be? What will the histology report be? Tell,
Adenocarcinoma.
correct. Adenocarcinoma of the colon. Then poorly differentiated, well differentiated, moderately differentiated. I told you poorly differentiated 3 centimeter, 2 centimeters. I mean well differentiated 2 centimeters clearance, poorly differentiated 5 centimeters. But the only exception rule is the lower part of the rectum, because the spread is always upwards and not downwards. So mostly I told you those important points. Sphincter saving surgeries. Sphincter saving, that means you are going to save the sphincters of the anal canal. It is very important that we have a continent functioning anal canal so that we can avoid colostomies. So people are not in favor of colostomies. So I told you all that. And then chemotherapy regimes I told you. Then what is neoadjuvant therapy? I told you that is neoadjuvant therapy, 2 goals. First is to downstage the tumor, and second one is what? To prevent metastatic deposits and recurrence, to prevent recurrence and metastatic deposits. So neoadjuvant therapy, most often they ask as 4 marks question. Then you should be able to write what is neoadjuvant therapy. That is the chemotherapy or chemo radiation combined, chemo and radiation, chemo and radiation given prior to the surgery with the 2 aims. One is to downstage the tumor and make it, then there will be sharp delineation of the margins so that the tumor is resectable. Then I told you there will be responders and non-responders. Mostly there will be the tumor, there will be responders. After 3 cycles we'll know that that tumor, you'll mark the site of the tumor. So then you'll know that the tumor size has reduced, or lymph nodes, lymph nodes have disappeared, or size has decreased. So downstaging of the tumor and to prevent recurrence and metastasis. So neoadjuvant, FOLFOXY, FOLFIRI, both regimes I told you. Then we were discussing about synchronous and metachronous lesions. I told you synchronous simultaneously or within 6 months. Then metachronous after 6 months to 2 years. If the another primary is located or diagnosed. 6 months to 2 years is metachronous. 6 months to 2 years is metachronous. Whereas simultaneously or another tumor appearing within 6 months is synchronous. So to synchronous and metachronous lesions, colonoscopy is recommended. So anywhere you find a tumor, you don't just go ahead and resect it. You have to do a colonoscopy. Then hello, connection is lost. Rajesh,
Sir, we can hear you.
Rajesh, hello.
Sir,
Sir,
we can
it's
hear you,
audible,
sir.
sir.
No, I cannot see the screen. Okay, I'll go ahead and tell you. So next, we are discussing about, okay, the connection has come back. We were discussing about familial adenomatous polyposis. Familial this is very important. So pre-malignant lesions, many are there. Out of this, right now we will discuss about familial adenomatous polyposis. I told you the chromosome number 5. So APC gene. So then not all APC gene mutations are FAP. You please understand this line. Please understand this line. వచ్చింది line connection పోయింది మధ్యలో మా వచ్చింది మళ్ళీ. So not all APC gene, almost 80% of APG, 80% of APC gene mutations located on chromosome number 5. So they will be 80% will be FAP positive, that is familial adenomatous polyposis syndrome. Suppose if the candidate is positive, for familial adenomatous polyposis, then the incidence of he or she having colorectal carcinoma in her lifetime is how much percent?
100%.
100%. 100%. So 100% they are going to develop colorectal carcinoma. So 100% in their lifetime they will develop colorectal carcinoma. So you have to start the surveillance from I told you teenage group, 11 years, 12 years, okay, 13. Patient has become 13 years, teenage group. So 13 to almost by the time of 19 to 20, it will become full blown. So full blown means when you do a colonoscopy, or a sigmoidoscopy, whatever, per field you'll notice 100 polyps. Please note down this. So this is and the appearance is carpet studded appearance, like a carpet studded, like carpet, carpet will be studded. Carpet bombing is different, okay, like an aircraft dropping bombs continuously, that is carpet bombing, okay. Carpet studded is the carpet is studded with the various pieces. So carpet CARPET, carpet studded appearance. So when in the field, what per field, so if you look at through colonoscope, per view, per field, you will find 100 polyps. So mostly they'll be villous polyps. There is many classifications of polyps. You please take down this one. This is important, this classification. villus polyps, tubular polyps, tubulovillus polyps. So tubular polyps will almost have a stalk will be there. So you can put a snare, you can through colonoscopy itself, you can put a snare and cut it. So whereas villus will be almost, it is you cannot put a snare and resect it. It will require surgical resection or something. So first you do a biopsy. So villus, tubular, tubulovillus. Again, tubular, villus, and tubulovillus. So most of these polyps, these polyps are there. Patient will keep on losing. These polyps will secrete lots of protein will be lost. Protein will mucus which is rich in mucus which is rich in proteins and potassium. So electrolyte imbalances will occur, and there is malnutrition also, loss of proteins and all that. So any surgery prior, you have to correct this. So these villus polyps, so they'll keep secreting mostly potassium and proteins. So prior to surgery, you have to do it. So carpets and these polyps will turn malignant. So by the time the patient is 19-20 years, there will be full polyps in the colon and rectum. So, and the diagnosis, okay, colonoscopy, of course, you'll take a histology, you'll take a biopsy and confirm it by histology. So, and mostly these will turn malignant. So what they do is total proctocolectomy. Entire colon and rectum is removed. Entire colon and rectum is removed. So what is remaining? Small bowel is remaining. Then what? Anal canal is remaining. So that ileum, they'll anastomose to anal canal. I tell you, length the anal canal is only. So when you do a rectal examination, the finger will be there in the lower part of the rectum. So anal canal. So what is done here is ilioanal anastomosis. Entire colon and rectum is removed with ilioanal anastomosis. Ilioanal anastomosis. This is distracting. I'll put it in silent. Hello. Yeah, I'm speaking. Who is this? Yeah. Yes, sir. I'm in the midst of the class. Okay, please send me a message. Yeah, okay, sir. Yes, sir. Please send me. Okay, tubulovillus and villus polyps. Sorry, we'll continue. Okay, so you do biopsy. Since there is chance for malignancy about 100%, so we have to do total proctocolectomy. So entire colon and rectum is removed, and the ileum is anastomosed to the anal canal. So there are different types of, now that the rectum is gone, there should be a reservoir for fecal matter before it is excreted. So the ileum is fashioned into different pouches. So J pouch, J-shaped pouch, J pouch, S pouch. So different ileal pouches are there. Okay, ileoanal anastomosis. You please remember that. That then no amount of rectal mucosa can be left behind. Strictly, you have to remove entire colon and rectum. So if you, even if you leave a little bit of rectum, in that mucosa also the polyps and carcinoma can develop. If the patient is diagnosed as FAP, familial adenomatous polyposis. So what they do is some amount, for case of anastomosis, some amount of rectal mucosa is left behind. Then that is charred using cautery, electrocautery. So this is called fulguration of the rectal mucosa. Ideally, you don't leave behind any amount of rectal mucosa. Total proctocolectomy with ileoanal anastomosis. So because you don't want to take chances of carcinoma developing. So see, then we'll go to some of the etiological factors and other syndromes. See, mostly FAP, if it is associated with other Gardner syndrome, please read about this. Gardner syndrome. So mostly it is what? Colon polyps, then colon polyps, mandibular osteomas, sebaceous cyst, then tumors of the abdominal wall, then tumors of the jaw. So all these. So adamantinomas. So Gardner syndrome. So that is when other things like these are associated with the familial FAP, Gardner syndrome. Then there is what is this? Peutz-Jeghers syndrome. In multiple colon polyps will be there. Then there will be pigmentation of oral mucosa. You pull the gum and see. Pull the gum and see inside the oral mucosa there will be pigmentation. So such kind of pigmentation is there. Then you have to suspect Peutz-Jeghers syndrome and do a colonoscopy. Then polyps are there, take a biopsy, see malignancy is there or not. So and also I told you right side, what are the symptoms? Right colon, what are the symptoms? Right colon carcinoma.
Refractory anemia and mass in right iliac fossa.
Mass in right iliac, good. Mass in right iliac fossa and refractory anemia. Refractory anemia and mass in right iliac fossa. Left iliac fossa, they'll present with obstruction first, change in bowel habits and bowel obstruction. They'll present early. So the prognosis is more good with left colon because they will present early. Right colon they might neglect because there is no obstruction. They might neglect, and then if the mass becomes very fixed to underlying structures, then it becomes unresectable. So the prognosis is good for left because they will present early. You tell that. Okay. Then mostly, okay, Muir-Torre syndrome, then so many other syndromes are there. And some of them Lynch syndrome. So some of the are common for both breast malignancies and GI malignancies. So these syndromes, I'll take another class. Just go through this Lynch syndrome, Gardner syndrome, then Muir-Torre syndrome, then Peutz-Jeghers syndrome, all these components. Okay, mostly for colon carcinomas and breast carcinomas also, CA breast also, this thing, syndromes are there. Okay, so here colon carcinoma is more common in Western population as in US and UK and the population which is eating red meat on a daily basis. So red meat is what? Beef and pork are red meat. White meat or lean meat is what? That is what we eat. White meat is chicken and fish. So we are less prone. They eat more of beef and pork. That is red meat. So people who consume red meat, more animal fat, less fiber, then they are prone uh, to develop colonic carcinoma. So in Western population, it is mandatory. So a person attains 45 or 50 years age, then they'll undergo certain recommendations are there. So 50 years of age, then annual colonoscopy, then every 5 years, then it starts to increase. Then as you reach 70, then so 50 years of age, every 3-4 years, you have to undergo once colonoscopy. Then as the age increases, 70 and all, then annual colonoscopy or biannual colonoscopy and all those things. So Western population are more at risk. So I told you this one more test is stool for occult blood or FOB, feces for occult blood. What is occult blood? Frank blood is what is seen to the eye, what is visible to the eye. So stool for occult blood is what? Occult is not visible to the eye. So the tumor, there can be microscopic bleed and macroscopic bleed. So microscopic bleed of the tumor will produce what? Stool, occult blood in the stool. So traditional method for diagnosing, for finding out this occult blood in the stool is Guaiac method. Guaic. Guaiac. I think this is the look up the spelling, Guaiac method. So Guaic. So what happens is you put the enzyme on it on the fecal matter. So and if there is blood microscopically, if there is blood also, then it will turn purple. So that is a peroxidase enzyme. Peroxidase enzyme acts and then it will turn purple. But stool for occult blood, you can get it done in suspicious cases, but high rates of false positivity is there. False positivity, like you have to follow certain principles before getting stool for occult blood. Like what? You should not eat non-vegetarian food for 2 or 3 days prior. Then you should not eat any of these carrot, radish, and what is this? These certain foods will produce false positive. Then you should avoid roughage. Roughage means like a non-veg with bones and all these things, or some rough food, roughage. So what this rough food will cause? It will cause small tears in the mucosa of the intestine. So that will give positive, false positive results. So for all these reasons, okay, stool for occult blood, now little more sophisticated kits are available. Please look up. These are called heme sensa, heme occult, two, like these different kits are there. So sophisticated kits. But any suspicion is there, you better get a colonoscopy. colonoscopy facilities are not there, then previously they used to do barium meal follow through. I told you what is barium meal follow through. So barium, what is this? Barium swallow is for esophagus. Barium meal is for stomach. So barium meal follow through, or it is called small bowel enema. Enteroclysis, I told you. Enteroclysis is you bypass the stomach antrum with a tube, then inject the barium or dye. So that will coat the intestine smoothly. Then you'll know any polyps, strictures, any suspicious growths are there. Oh, but we cannot examine the mucosa. That is the it is readily available and it is cheap. Okay, but it is not very much. We can do the test to evaluate certain lesions, but the mucosa cannot be examined. So that is a disadvantage. Barium meal follow through. It is also called small bowel enema. So just because enema is there, don't think that enema is given. That is for rectal lesions, that enema. So anybody has small bowel enema or BMFT, it is called barium meal follow through. So by this also, since it is cheap and effective, by this most irregularities like polyps, strictures, all these growths we can make out, but definite diagnosis is by colonoscopy also. Any small bowel, any lesions are there, then you depend upon, nowadays capsule endoscopy is there, so depend upon capsule endoscopy. So how long is the class rep?
110 sir, 115
Pavan?
up to 115 sir.
Okay, 115 up to 115, fine. Okay, so the other types of lesions that where carcinoma is present, HNPCC, the hereditary non-polyposis colon cancer. So just know what it is, that's all. So there are different criteria, Amsterdam criteria and all that. So no need to go in detail about all of these. So mostly colorectal carcinoma can be diagnosed by suspicious cases, stool for occult blood, but it is not reliable. Then go for colonoscopy and do the stage the disease. After colonoscopy, you do for any nodes are there, mesenteric nodes are there, then you have to go ahead and do CT with contrast, then node evaluation, then the staging is mostly TNM staging. You can remember TNM staging, but mostly Duke staging is there. Duke A, B, C, and D. So Duke staging is mostly used. So then Astler collar modification, that all these things are there. So Duke staging is mostly this cancer confined Duke A. Cancer confined to mucosa, then it has not, then B is which is penetrated the lamina propria but not serosa, then Duke sees serosa, then D he has not prescribed, so later they have modified. So Duke D is D1 D2, that is what is this lymph nodal, perinodal adjacent lymph nodes are present, then it is stage 1. Then distant lymph nodes are present, that is stage 2. That is D1 and D2. Duke himself has not described D1 and D2. He described only up to C. C is completely the serosa has been breached and the tumor has spread outside. So Dukes is mostly simple and reliable classification. At your level, if you remember Duke staging, it is more than enough. So once the disease has been staged, then I told you there is always a tumor panel which uh, takes the decision. So what is to be done, where exactly the lesion is there, should surgery alone be enough, or surgery plus adjuvant therapy is enough, or should we give neoadjuvant therapy, downstage the tumor and then do the surgery. Afterwards the chemotherapy is almost always followed after surgery. So neoadjuvant, okay, you give 6 cycles prior to the surgery, downstage the tumor, then resection of the tumor is done. Then afterwards also, post surgery also, sometimes the chemotherapy is continued. So this type of therapy is called sandwich therapy. You know, like sandwich, both sides bread is there, in between the patty or whatever, so sandwiched. So that side and this side chemo radiation is there in between surgery. So that is if you are giving chemo radiation post-op. So neoadjuvant therapy I already told you, and mostly the regimes I told you, FOLFOX, you remember the regimes? You remember the chemotherapy regimes which I told you?
Yes, sir.
FOLFOX is folinic acid, 5-fluorouracil, and oxaliplatin. Mostly folinic acid is immunomodulator or sensitizer. It sensitizes the chemotherapy agents to the for the treatment. So there will be better action of the chemotherapy agents. So FOL, FOL, FOL is folinic acid, then F is 5-FU, OX is oxaliplatin, that is FOLFOX. FOLFIRI, I told you last time also, FOLFIRI, folinic acid, then 5-FU and irinotecan. Oh, irinotecan. So these are the 2 regimes that are commonly used. So this is about colorectal carcinoma. So I'll just in a minute. So did you revise last class colorectal carcinoma? Did you revise what points I told you, these chemotherapy regimes and these resections?
Yes.
So all these cancer syndromes, Gardner syndrome, Turcot syndrome, all this Gardner syndrome, I told you, familial adenomatous polyposis, along with mandibular osteomas, then desmoid tumor, dermoids, and all these things. This is known as Gardner syndrome. Then I told you this, what is this? Peutz-Jeghers syndrome, I told you. And then so these polyps, I told you, mostly tubular polyps and villus polyps. There is a sequence known as adenoma carcinoma sequence. So adenocarcinoma sequence, like where almost 5 genes act before the the adenoma, then it undergoes some metastasis, then early stage carcinoma, then early stage, middle, and early, intermediate, and late, and finally frank carcinoma in situ. So there are different, this is known as adenocarcinoma sequence. They want, okay, this is mostly PG question. So which gene is acting at what level? Like what are the tumor suppressor genes? Tumor suppressor genes. Any examples?
P53 KRAS.
Yeah, P53 is one of the important tumor suppressor genes. So tumors, if it is there, and if it is there, it is almost good prognosis. If some mutation is there, and then it's not this thing, so then it is bad prognosis. So tumor suppressor genes like P53. So then all these APC genes and other genes. Okay. So what are the this thing? What are the symptoms of rectal carcinoma? I told you last class.
Tenesmus, sir.
What? Okay. Change in bowel
Frank,
habit. Okay. Tenesmus. Tenesmus, you remember, that is sense of incomplete evacuation of the bowel. Sense of incomplete evacuation of the bowel. Then
Frank
the
blood, sir.
frank blood. Yes,
Curious.
very good. Yeah, that is number one. Number one is frank blood per rectum.
Rectum.
So that is, this is not altered blood, since rectum is almost only anal canal is there. So here whatever bleeding occurs here, it will be frank bleeding. So frank bleeding per rectum. Then tenesmus. Tenesmus means sense of incomplete evacuation. Then what? Early morning mucus diarrhea. Early in the morning, then they'll pass mucus diarrhea. Then as the lesion starts to spread, then there will be spurious diarrhea. I told you what spurious is, false. So above the lesion, the fecal matter keeps on collecting. Suddenly it will liquefy, and through the narrow space just adjacent, so it will come out as diarrhea. This is not true diarrhea. This is false diarrhea, spurious diarrhea. So diarrhea alternating with constipations. So all these are features of rectal carcinoma. And 90% of the lesions are diagnosed how? Almost greater than 90%. If somebody tell,
Digital rectal examination.
yes, digital rectal examination. Wear a double gloves finger, double gloves, take xylocaine jelly, and since some more time is there, just I will describe how to do per rectal examination. Per rectal examination. Suppose somebody asks, both in Viva or clinics we will demonstrate, but in theory also per-rectal examination, how it is done, then you should be able to tell. So the position of the patient is Sims position, SIMS, Sims position or left lateral position. Patient is lying down, then the leg is, we will demonstrate. It is called left lateral position. Patient cannot be put in left lateral position. Then you put in lithotomy position itself. No need to turn the patient. Just how he is sleeping, lithotomy position itself. So Sims left lateral position, that is the position. Then next is if it is not possible, just lithotomy position. So then wear double gloves. Wear double gloves. Then take the xylocaine jelly. Ask your assistant to adjust the light. First, perianal area. You should write all these findings. Even if nothing is there, you should still make that means your negative this thing. You look, no skin tags, no fistula openings, no skin tags. Sentinel pile was 2 marks question. What is sentinel pile? Just recent examination, sentinel pile was 2 marks question. What is a sentinel pile? Sentinel is like guarding. Sentinel pile is not a true hemorrhoid. It is not a hemorrhoid, not a pile mass. It is just a tag of skin tag, which is lying adjacent to fissure in ano. So when you see a skin tag like that, and then there is sphincter spasm when you introduce the finger, this is almost conclusive of fissure in ano. Sentinel tag is present. That means a skin tag is present in per-rectal examination. A skin tag you have seen. That indicates chronic fissure in ano. Acute fissure in ano you won't find the skin tag. So what is fissure in ano? Fissure in ano is a tear in the anal mucosa. Tear in the anal mucosa. A linear tear in the anal mucosa. So by the history itself, you will know whether what the diagnosis is. Painful defecation is there. Painful defecation. The patient is having pain while defecating, and on the fecal matter there is streaks of blood, not like spontaneous bleeding which occurs in regular hemorrhoids. Here streaks of blood is present, and pain during defecation is present. So external skin tag, fistula openings, then warts, any other lesions are there, then make a note of it. Then what you do, gently introduce the finger into the anal canal. Then once you have introduced the finger, then ask the check if there are any growths in the lumen. See if there is a growth that is palpable per-rectal, then you should know how many centimeters it is palpable from the anal verge. That means from the anus, how many centimeters higher up it is. Then describe the growth. So see circumferential, right? Circumference. So this carcinoma, it will take almost about 6 months to occupy 1/4 of the circumference. So by the end of 2 years, what will happen? Entire circumference is occupied. 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. So that is usually it is how it is. Stenosing lesion. So by by the 2 years are little early. there will be full stenosing lesion. Entire circumference is occupied. So when you do a PR, tell how many centimeters is the growth from the anal verge, then how much of the circumference it is occupying. Please note down all these points. Then whether the mucosa over it is free or not, or can be slided. You do like this, mucosa is free or tethered or fixed. So mucosa is free or tethered, fixed. So all these points, how many centimeters from the anal verge. Then okay, so in male patients, so if there is no growth, fine, there is no growth. So I told you, if there is a skin tag, then that indicates fissure in ano. Here when you introduce the finger, the sphincter will tightly grip your finger. So that is called sphincter spasm. So then patient will have severe pain. So severe pain is there, sphincter spasm is there, then you are not supposed to do anything else. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
If there is sphincter spasm, do not do anything else. So remove it, remove the finger because it is painful. Suppose this is elderly patient, then you're trying to put some more instruments like proctoscope or something, some vasovagal shock can occur, then patient can collapse. So we don't want all that. The further examinations is done under anesthesia. Under anesthesia you can check, give some sort of anesthesia, then do colonoscopy or whatever is recommended. So any pain is there, that is mostly indicate sphincter spasm, severe sphincter spasm is there, it is tightly gripping your finger, that means it is indicative of fissure in ano, mostly with a skin tag. So fissure in ano class has been taken. Fissure in
No,
ano,
sir.
did somebody explain?
No, sir.
Okay, I will complete this rectal examination and we'll go to that. Okay, so here what happens, that sphincter will tightly grip your this thing, sphincter will grip your finger, so that you remove this finger out and do not do anything else. No more proctoscopy or anything else, only under anesthesia you will do. So the acute fissure in ano, you can have acute sphincter spasm. Sphincter spasm will be present, but skin tag may not be there. But once the skin tag is developed, developed, that means later, gently part the buttocks, you will see a tear in the anal mucosa. But that is not the way to diagnose. Diagnosis is by chronic fissure in ano. Diagnosis is sentinel tag or sentinel pile is present. Then sentinel pile is present, then sphincter spasm is present. Sphincter spasm. So when sphincter spasm is present, you don't do anything else. So take the finger out. Okay. Now rectal examination. Okay. I told you. Okay. Sphincter spasm is not there, then there is no fissure in ano, and no growths are there in the. You check. No growths are palpable in the lumen. Then lower rectum, then whole of it, nothing is there. Then male patients, you turn anteriorly. Male patients, you turn the finger anteriorly toward the anterior side. Then see a patient, male patient aged, this is very important point, male patient aged about 50 years, 45, 50 years above, the prostate will be enlarged. 60, 70 and all, it will be, prostate will be enlarged. So per rectal examination, you will be able to feel the prostate. So by 70 years of age and all, BPH, maybe symptoms may be there, may not be there, but mostly BPH will be there. Benign prostatic hyperplasia. So Rectal examination, how is it diagnosed? How is the prostate felt? In male patient, turn the finger anteriorly. How is it felt? How is the description of normal prostate? I'll tell you. Two smooth lobes with median groove intact. So it is felt as it has 5 lobes. So here 2 lobes are palpable. So 2 lobes smooth in consistency with the median groove is intact. So that is BPH. So this whole thing is palpable as hard mass with obliteration of the groove. The groove is obliterated and the whole thing feels like a hard mass. Then it is suspicious of carcinoma prostate. Then what will you do? You can take rectal biopsy. You can take biopsy through this, through via rectum. You can take a biopsy and check for prostate specific PSA antigens and other tumor markers are there nowadays. They are relying on them. So, but for most purposes, your exam purposes, you mention prostate specific antigen. So, PSA is raised, then hard mass is palpable per rectum. That is CA prostate. Now take the finger out. Examine the glove for what? 3 things. What are those 3 things? Mucus or pus, or any discharge. Melena is there, frank blood is there. So examine for this. So you will write per rectal examination notes. First you will write no skin tags. If they are there, you write present, or no prolapsed external hemorrhoids, no fistula openings, no warts. So all these things. Then in the lumen, no growth, no sphincter spasm, no growth palpable. Then elderly patient BPH or younger prostate is enlarged or not, male patients. Then take the finger out on the normal fecal stains, normal fecal matter is present there, or melena or frank blood, whatever is present. So I'll tell 2 points about Fissure Nano and complete the class. So Fissure Nano, acute and chronic. So Fissure Nano is a linear tear occurring in the anal mucosa. Mostly it is posterior fissure nano. Anteriorly, if it is present, when we discuss in person, I'll show you. Anteriorly, if it is present, then you'll think of some other conditions like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. So mostly Crohn's, there will be parectal and anal pathologies. Ulcerative colitis, you may not find that much. So some other diseases you should think of. So posterior fissure in ano, this fissure in ano is occurring linear tear. It is occurring mostly, the cause is due to internal sphincter, the sphincter which is there inside. External sphincter is present round the anal canal. That tuborectalis sling, that that forms the external sphincter. External sphincter is mostly responsible for continence. That is, people in general, people are able to control, they are not passing fecal matter spontaneously. So the external sphincter is maintaining the continence. So internal sphincter, if it is hypertrophied, internal sphincter, if it is hypertrophied, then it will cause continuous sphincter spasm. So that will lead to formation of constipation, hard stools, and then there will tearing of the anal mucosa will occur. So these end arteries, anal canal, right? The end arteries pass through the sphincter, but there is continuous sphincter spasm is present, severe continuous sphincter spasm, then the blood flow to the anal canal is reduced because of this. So whatever that tear is there, that fissure in ano, posterior fissure in ano, it will not heal because there is continuous sphincter spasm is there, and the blood supply is reduced, so healing it will not occur. So that adjacent skin tag, it is formed as a part of protective reflex. Since there is an ulcer there, adjacent skin tag, it is formed as a protective mechanism just to cover the, it is a sign of chronic fissure in ano. Once the chronic fissure develops, then you have to surgical intervention is must. You have to do surgery. So acute sphincter in anos, you can treat conservatively. So but whereas chronic will need surgical management. So what is the principle behind correction? What is the surgery that is done for fissure in ano, either acute or chronic? So what is the pathology here? Continuous sphincter spasm. The internal sphincter is hypertrophied. So you cut a few fibers of the internal sphincter. Then the sphincter spasm is abolished. Then the fissure will heal on its own. So what are the skin tag and all, you remove it, and few fibers of the internal sphincter under anesthesia only, spinal anesthesia or whatever, you cut a few fibers of the internal sphincter, few fibers are cut. So sphincter spasm is abolished. So conservative methods, I'll just tell you how the sphincter spasm can be relieved. So patient is asked to, after defecation, the patient washes, and it is called patient is asked to sit in a bowl of lukewarm water. Sits bath, sits good. It is called sits bath, SITZ. So sits bath. So if you sit in that warm water, what will happen? This warm water temperature will relax the sphincter. So there will be more sphincter relaxation. Sphincter relaxation will be there. So if you do it, 3-4 times a day or 2 times a day, if you do it, then there is some chances are there for the fissure to heal temporarily. Once the sentinel pile is formed, it has become chronic fissure and surgical intervention is needed. So sits bath you can try. That is lukewarm water the patient sits in. This will relax the internal sphincter. So there is more blood flow, relaxation is there, and few more procedures to relax the internal sphincter. What? Botulinum toxin you can use. So you can inject a botulinum toxin. How it is injected and all I will deal later. Botulinum toxin, but the action is, so it will paralyze and there will be relaxation. Botulinum toxin. So once you inject, there will be relaxation, but it will last only 3 months. So every 3 months you have to repeat. 3 months or 4 months you have to constantly repeat. So instead of that, you better go for sphincterotomy. That is more procedures. Or also some of the ointments are what else can relax the smooth muscle? Nitroglycerin ointments. Then what is this? Calcium channel antagonist. So diltiazem. Then what is this? Nitroglycerin ointments, all these. But these ointment applications, they can temporarily relax the sphincter for a few, it is not a permanent procedure. And also these ointments, some of them tend to be oily preparations, so it will be messy putting into the anal canal and all this. So correct procedure has to be followed. So if you're not applying proper amount or in a proper way, then it's going to be ineffective. So the main pathology is in fissure nano, the main pathology is hypertrophied internal sphincter, which causes diffuse internal sphincter spasm or continuous sphincter spasm. So the relief is, surgical relief is sphincterotomy, lateral sphincterotomy. The whole sphincter you are not going to cut. Lateral side, few fibers you will cut. So that will relieve the sphincter spasm and the fissure will heal. So that's about it. Any more doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. Class rep, please give the attendance. So we have discussed colorectal carcinoma. I have told you about how to perirectal examination, how the note, how to do, and we will demonstrate here and how. So after you become residents, you learn perirectal examination. It is simple. You know, it's surprising people who go to go to medicine posting. They'll ask surgery residents for perirectal examination. You don't have to do perirectal examination. You know, okay. I told you the procedure. Okay. Next, when you are here, we'll demonstrate and how the perirectal examination notes, how it has to be written, what all things you'll check. Then fissure in nano, I told you. So that's about it. Next class, we'll discuss something else. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.